His date of birth is unknown, as it took place when there was no birth registration documentation, but Banda himself often gave his date of birth as May 14, 1906. His date of birth is unknown, as it took place when there was no birth registration documentation, but Banda himself often gave his date of birth as May 14, 1906. In the early days as leader of Malawi, he was mostly viewed by the world as a benign and eccentric leader, an image helped massively by his English-style three-piece suits, matching handkerchiefs and walking stick. It's thought that throughout his rule, he accumulated at least $320 million in personal assets, believed to be invested in everything from agriculture to mining interests in South Africa. During his time in the UK during World War II, he was forced to leave Liverpool when he refused on conscientious grounds to be conscripted as an army doctor. Around this time, he also became an elder of a parish in the Church of Scotland. He studied medicine at Malawi Medical College in Tennessee, in the US, where he obtained an MD degree in 1937. Banda became the second Malawian person to receive a medical degree, the other being Daniel Sharp Malekabu. Less than a month after independence, Malawi had a cabinet crisis. Several ministers presented him with proposals meant to limit his powers. Banda responded by dismissing 4 of the ministers, while others resigned in sympathy with those who'd been dismissed. Between 1941 and 1945, he worked as a doctor in North Shields, near Newcastle upon Tyne. He was a tenant of a woman named Amy Walton around this time in North Shields and sent a Christmas card to her every year right up until her death in the late 1960s. He chose the name, Malawi, for the former Nyasa land. He'd seen it on an old French map as the name of a place called Lake Maravi, and liked the sound and appearance of the word as Malawi. On July 6, 1964, Nyasaland gained independence from the UK and was renamed Malawi. During his presidency, Malawi refused to establish diplomatic relations with any of the communist governments in Eastern Europe or Asia. Relations were later established with North Korea in 1982, and with Romania and Albania in 1985. Banda was also one of the few African leaders to support the United States in the Vietnam War. This was likely due to his hatred of communism. In 1917, he left on foot for Johannesburg in South Africa. He worked at the Witwatersrand deep mine on the Transvaal Reef for several years. During this time, he met Bishop William Tecumseh of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, who offered to pay his tuition fee at a Methodist school in the United States if he could pay his own passage, and in 1925, he left for New York. After some questions about his health, he ran in Malawi's first properly democratic presidential election in 1994. He was defeated by Bakili Muluzai, a Yao from the south of the country. Banda conceded defeat, saying, "I wish to congratulate him wholeheartedly and offer him my full support and cooperation." On the state radio, marking an end to 30 years of one-party rule in Malawi, the name Kamkwala was later replaced with Kamuzu. This name was given to him because he was allegedly conceived after his mother had been given root herbs by a medicine man to cure infertility. He took the Christian name of Hastings after being baptized into the Church of Scotland in 1910, naming himself after John Hastings, a Scottish missionary working near his village. The title of Doctor was earned through his education. After the end of the Cold War, Western leaders and international aid donors no longer had any use for authoritarian, anti-communist regimes in the Third World. Donors told Banda that he had to implement reforms intended to make his government transparent and accountable to the people, and the international community as a condition for further support. The British government also stopped financial aid. In March 1992, Catholic bishops in Malawi issued a Lenten pastoral letter that criticized the Malawian regime. Malawi adopted a new constitution on July 6, 1966, in which Malawi was declared a republic. Banda was elected the country's first president for a 5-year term. The new document granted Banda wide executive and legislative powers, and also officially made the Malawian Congress Party the only legal party. In 1970, a Congress of the MCP declared Banda its president for life, and there next year the legislature declared Banda president for life of Malawi as well. Malawi adopted a new constitution on July 6, 1966, in which Malawi was declared a republic. Banda was elected the country's first president for a 5-year term. The new document granted Banda wide executive and legislative powers, and also officially made the Malawian Congress Party the only legal party. In 1970, a Congress of the MCP declared Banda its president for life, and there next year the legislature declared Banda president for life of Malawi as well. His government closely supervised people's lives. In the early days of his regime, Banda instituted a dress code rooted in his socially conservative beliefs. Women were not allowed to wear see-through clothing, to have visible cleavage or wear trousers, and weren't allowed to wear skirts or dresses that went above the knees. The only exception to this was at holiday resorts and country clubs, where they wouldn't be seen by the public. Banda explained that these rules were not designed to oppress women, but instill respect and dignity for them. Men's hair had to be no longer than collar length, and foreign visitors at the airport were often given mandatory haircuts if necessary. Any man who had long hair in public could be arrested by police and get a forced haircut. In 1983, 3 ministers, Dikmatan G. Wibu, Aaron Gadama, and a member of parliament named David Chiwanga died in what was officially reported to be a traffic accident. Hastings Banda had called a cabinet meeting regarding an internal debate on pending multi-party democracy in Malawi. During the meeting, the 3 ministers voiced support for the multi-party idea, challenging Banda's claim to life presidency. Banda then dissolved the cabinet and announced that Parliament would meet immediately. At the end of that sitting of Parliament, everyone in the chambers was stripped of their political status. The 3 ministers were taken to the Zomba Parliament buildings for questioning. David Chiwanga saw them being tortured in a back room, making him a witness. They were bundled into Matangi's Peugeot 604 and driven to Tambani, in Mwanza district, where the accident was staged. It was reported their car had overturned while trying to escape into Mozambique. It was later found out they had been killed by having tent pins hammered into their heads. Banda ordered a night burial and ordered that the caskets not be opened for a last viewing.